Hi, I'm Leonie West from Westalee Design, and one of the questions we are often asked is how to get accurate piecing. When we cut, we need to cut accurately. We need to sew accurately and press accurately. We want to be able to cut strips of fabric where we don't wind up with a dog leg in them. And if you have a look at the piece of fabric here, we're losing and it's coming out again. So this piece of fabric was cut without any preparation in the fabric. It was just cut straight from the bolt. And as you can see, it is not a very straight cut. If I was sewing strips together using that, I would not wind up with accurate strips sewn. I prepare my fabric by starching the fabric before I do anything. So I take the fabric and I spray it with spray starch. I let the fabric rest for about 10 minutes, which allows the starch to be absorbed into the fabric. After 10 minutes, I can then press the fabric, press out the bolt fold and any creases in the fabric, and then my fabric is ready for me to cut. There are a couple of reasons why I spray starch the fabric. I like the body that starch gives my fabric. I want my fabric to all be on an even playing field. You will notice that some fabrics that you buy are quite light and soft. Some have more body than others. By starching the fabric in the first place, then I get a much more even grade of fabric for my whole quilt. Another reason I like the starch is that when I press my seams, I press with steam. And when the steam is on the fabric which has been starched, the starch is actually moistened and the starch reactivates, and therefore I get very firm, tight seams when they're pressed. So we've pressed the fabric and now it's ready to cut. But before I cut, I like to make sure that my grains are aligned. So I take the fabric and I hold it from the selvages. So I've got the two selvages together and I have one finger in between those two layers of fabric. With the selvages together, I hold it up and you can see the buckles in this fabric. I need to make it hang straight. So I will take the fabric and just gently move it, giving it a little shake until the fabric is hanging straight. When the fabric is hanging straight, it's now ready to just put down. I lay it down on my cutting surface, run my hands across the top, and now I bring the selvages up to the fold. Run my hands across the fabric again and just hold it up and make sure it is hanging straight now. So that's my fabric preparation. The fabric's ready to cut, but I do have a rough edge where the fabric is not straight here. I need to straighten that, and I will take care of that with my first cut. I like to keep the fabric going across the table this way. I don't want to be cutting an end off here, turning my fabric around, and every time I need to straighten I have to turn the fabric. So for this exercise I'm going to cut 2-inch strips. So I'm going to set the ruler on the guide on my ruler to 2 inches, and now I'm going to place that guide over that rough edge of the fabric. So if we look here, we can see where those edges are, and the guide is over there. I will now bring one of my straight lines up so it's in line with the fold. Hold the ruler down on the clear portion. Our rulers are designed to tilt. Because they tilt, they actually hold the fabric in place and they stop your ruler from kicking out, which is the other reason why we get that lovely dog leg in our strips. So lining it up again, holding it down. The first cut straight up. I am now going to take this piece, carefully turn it round, put my guide to the edge and make my cut. And I can just work my way down the strip of fabric, cutting beautiful, accurate 2-inch strips every time. Because the ruler does not kick out, I don't get the dog leg problem happening, and as you can see I have beautiful straight strips of fabric. When we are rotary cutting, it is important to have a sharp blade. When you're cutting fabric for patchwork, the 45mm blade is the best one to use. There are many different sizes of blades, and the smaller ones are really for cutting around curves, not for cutting our strips for piecing. My favourite rotary cutter is the Alpha, and I do like to use Alpha mats. When you feel the texture of the Alpha mat, it has a lovely texture. It actually helps your fabric stay in place, and it's very gentle on your rotary cutter. You should not have to press hard to cut with your rotary cutter. Your rotary cutter should not slide across the mat. It should actually slightly cut into the mat, and that way you get a really nice, even, easy cut. Holding a rotary cutter, I'm just going to line the ruler up with the edge of the fabric. Rotary cutters should be held at a 90-degree angle to the table. So I'm coming up, and that's the angle I need to be cutting at. I don't want to be cutting with my rotary cutter tilted. If I'm cutting with the rotary cutter tilted, then my fabric is not being cut the same size. My top size will be one size and the next layers, and it will go down because of that angle. If I cut the other way, I have the same problem. Another problem when you tilt your rotary cutters is that you're actually cutting under the ruler or on top of the ruler. And if you cut underneath, you will chip your ruler edge, and if you cut on top, you will chip the top edge of the ruler. It will also blunt your blade quickly. So we need to hold that rotary cutter at a 90-degree angle to the mat, and we also need to cut before the fabric, and we need to continue our cut after the fabric. We should bring our rotary cutter into our ruler edge, not down to our ruler. If we come down to our ruler, we may not be in the right place, and we could cut across the ruler, which will be dangerous. So we bring the rotary cutter to the edge of the ruler, start before the fabric, and then cut straight up and continue past the edge of the fabric. And that way we get really nice straight and even cuts. So the rules with cutting is a 90-degree angle to the mat, start before the fabric, continue past the fabric. You should not have to press hard with your rotary cutter, and you should not have to press hard on your ruler. The Westalee rulers have a guide on them, and our templates have guides. And the reason I have guides is when you cut templates from fabric, they have a tendency to slip and slide around, so the guide makes it much easier. I want to cut these from strips of fabric, so I'm going to use my ruler to work out the measurement of the strip. So I'm just moving the guide so it's touching at the black here on the clear, and the black is touching the clear at the top. Move the template up to the top of the ruler and do the same thing. Always come back and make an adjustment at the final cut. I will then cut strips of fabric out, so I just put the guide to the edge of the fabric, hold the ruler down, cut the strip. Now I want to cut that template out. You can cut the template on a mat and have these lovely angles you've got to try and work your body into to cut. It is much easier and safer to use a rotating mat. So I just put the fabric on the rotating mat, template on top, and move that mat to the position that gives me the easiest cut. So I'm just going to cut off here, spin the mat around, cut the next piece, cut the little point off the top, come down, and that is my template cut out without having to twist and bend to go around that piece. Rotary mats are a wonderful investment to make.